Hi, how's it going? I hope everyone's doing well after a lovely week nine in the NFL. Week nine's not over yet. Michael McQueen, Colin Cronin, and I believe Bino O'Leary is here as well. Seen your tweet earlier on. How's it going, boys? Good.
Very good. Yeah, what a week nine, wild week of action. And what I can say though is the happiest man in the NFL is not Urban Meyer, it's not Mike Vrabel, it's Tom Brady, because even when he is not playing, he's winning.
Yeah, what a weekend. I mean, every weekend, here you go. I know, Fred, look, let's just hold off for the fun. We've got a long show ahead of us, Fred. Don't ruin it just yet. Yeah. So, look, every week when we're doing the lead up to the weekend, we always touch on the fact that there's always one or two shocks, and where's that shock going to come from? But the last two weekends in particular, it's been just so many surprises. It's hard to. I was looking through our picks today, um, and we didn't do very well on certain games. And Michael, you did quite well on some shocking results. But by and large, look, there's so much to get through. Some teams are going to get slaughtered tonight. It's going to be funny.
I think the thing you're saying about me there, like I obviously appreciate that very kind comment, but the reality is there were some games I should have picked the obvious team, and then I would be sitting here like a champion. But when you say your team is going to get beat by 40 points, there's not much I can say. Welcome to everybody watching the show. There's 50 people watching right now. Feel free to comment on YouTube, on Twitter, and we'll try and read them out. We're going to try and get through as many games as possible tonight before we look at Monday Night Football tonight, which is the Bears going up against the Steelers. We're delighted to have Tommy Rooney join us around 10:15. There is the Messiah, Justin Fields, and Najee Harris, presented by Trust, presented by Matchbook Betting Exchange. Thanks to everybody for joining in. If you want to keep firing on the chat, lads, we'll try and get through it either during or after the talk. Let's kick it off. Let's look back on as many games as we can last night. Bills, Jags. Genuinely, I'm not just saying this. I had a feeling when we done the live show on Saturday, I had a feeling that something was going to happen to Bills. I watched the Miami game and I thought, I know they got it towards the end, but by Jesus, Colin, what happened to Buffalo Bills yesterday? That's there's that many things wrong with the Bills at the minute. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I imagine they want to know what happened yesterday because they need to get it figured out, and they need to get it figured out quickly. Obviously, the talking point is around the two Josh Allens and Josh Allen sacking Josh Allen, but and that's the one that gets a lot of play. But it wasn't just the sack; it was the 8 tackles, 2 for loss, the interception, the fumble recovery, and it's not a huge surprise that the Jags, Josh Allen had a good game. We saw him in London have a great game. Came up with an enormous 4th down stop towards the end of that game, and he's been very good during his time in the league. But for the Bills, it's an issue with the line, and as you said, Michael, the problems that emerged during that Dolphins game came back to haunt them. Their own Josh Allen was under all sorts of pressure. And it was interesting. I was listening to the PFF podcast earlier, and Sam Monson made a fair point. The new kind of generation of QBs want to make plays happen all the time. And so they maybe hold the ball too long, or they try making a throw that just is almost impossible, whereas the likes of your Tom Brady and your Peyton Manning were willing to just throw the ball away. And he yesterday took some sacks and took some chances that he probably shouldn't have. You imagine he'll learn from them, but the Bills have got to get it together. They've got to get away from the number of penalties. 12 penalties yesterday. Every time the red zone went to them, you thought, oh, they're going to get it going. It just never ever happened. Kudos to the Jags. It was a big win, and it wasn't a fluke at all. They absolutely deserved it.
Yeah, the Jags also missed 3 field goals. So the game could have been a little bit more comfortable than it was when it wasn't comfortable in the end, but they got there. What I picked up on today when I was reviewing this game was how one-dimensional the Bills went in this game. They had 72 yards of rushing. 50 odd of those came from Josh Allen. Their running backs had a shared combined handoff of 6 carries throughout the game. So as good as they've been on offense, I mean, you need to balance the team. And I suppose that's to the point you made, Colin, that they're always looking for the big play or the big ones down the field. And like you don't necessarily have to go conservative, but the balance allows you to take teams off kilter, defense off kilter, and then you free up your players down the field. That didn't happen yesterday because Jacksonville had a scheme where they went cover 2 in the middle and literally said, right, beat our secondary and beat our safeties and beat our linebackers, and they couldn't because it was literally throw. And just on the Josh Allen sack, Josh Allen fumble, Josh Allen pick. I mean, if you didn't know who Josh Allen was, or either Josh Allen, and you turned on Red Zone last night, you knew by the end of the night because the amount of times Scott Hansen called it out. My God, he was wetting himself last night. One final stat in the game, which it's reflective on the fact of how big a favourite they were. Only 6 teams since 1990 who are 50.5 points or more underdogs have actually managed to win a game. So it shows the rarity of how often this happens. For the Bills, I think they're fortunate because they're going to rebound next week against the Jets. And I know the Jets have had their couple of shocks, but I can't see it. Especially coming off this defeat, I think they'll rally and they'll get it right next week.
Yeah, I seen Patriots Feeder saying there it was the second best game to watch this weekend. The reality is, in more ways than one, the Bills lost yesterday. The Patriots won yesterday. It's an intriguing way to set up the season, and as it stands, the Raiders will play the Bills in the wildcard weekend matchup. I couldn't believe, Colin, that Bills team went out. Like, I obviously said about the Jags, but I didn't actually think the Bills would go to Jacksonville and play that poorly.
Well, what was interesting, I saw it earlier, was Kyle Brandt, who we've given a lot of love to on this show at times, but he had tweeted a few weeks back about the Bills not having a bye week, that the Bills had a bye month because they had the bye week then followed by the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Jets. And the Jags called him out on it. But you cannot get complacent in this league. I think it cost the Bengals last week against the Jets, and it may well have been one of the factors in the Jags' victory.
A lot of people been calling for, people looking ahead to potential head coaching changes, whether it's during the season or, with the Raiders situation and other coaches that are under pressure. And then obviously come the end of the season, that Black Monday anyway. And Brian Dable, the offensive coordinator for the Bills, is the name that keeps coming up because that Bills offense has been explosive. But what we've seen over the past 2 weeks, and despite the Dolphins' frailties, like you touched on it on the show at the weekend, Michael, I suppose it was relevant to why you picked the Jags, that they weren't convincing last week at home to the Dolphins against a team that's been putting 30-odd points up on 6 games in a row, and it took 16 points in the fourth quarter for him to pull away. So as a coordinator, he's had two really poor games. So it'd be interesting to see how they rebound off that offensively in particular.
Very difficult day for Bills Mafia. There was a lot of Bills Mafia that watches this. I know it was very hard for them to watch yesterday, but they will come again, boys. I have no doubt.
Bills, as you said. I thought one of the funniest things I saw on Twitter last night was a Patriots fan, I can't recall who it was, someone who does like to engage, was saying, I wonder how the Bills Mafia meetup party is going tonight.
Oh, here. Well, shout out to Buffalo Bill, Bills era. It's hard luck, lad. Next week. Any given Sunday. And the next game that we're going to look at is probably the best example this week of any given Sunday. I don't know how in the hell the Dallas Cowboys lost by that many points to the Denver Broncos yesterday, who apparently were sitting at 9 o'clock Eastern column without a quarterback for 10 minutes. They were waiting on COVID tests coming back. I don't know where to start, apart from the fact that I had reasons to call them out. I have no issues in saying that. I'm not going to apologize. I mean, they've been woeful 4 out of the last 4 weeks. But it is what it is. An unbelievable result for Vic Fangio. What was your thoughts on that result in Dallas yesterday, Colin?
A huge shock. I mean, given everything going into it, given the injuries, it wasn't just the COVID situation, Michael. You had Bryce Callahan gone on IR. You had Garrett Bowles out at left tackle. You kind of a patched up line. And what was interesting to me was the fact that Peter King said that 30-0 he was the most stunning thing in a Sunday of surprises. That was the most surprising thing to him. I think it's, again, a combination of a number of different factors. I think complacency from Dallas and a bit of arrogance from Dallas. They went for it on fourth down very early on and got blown up twice. There was the run from Zeke, and then there was a pass from Dak. And that, Justin Simmons was hugely important in the Broncos defense, but I think that set the tone, and the Broncos came out super aggressive. Now you'd have to ask the question, where was this team up to now? But also, it was a team coming off that was supposed to be reeling from the Von Miller trade. But my goodness, for almost the entirety of the game, up until the last kind of seven minutes or thereabouts, it was all the Broncos. They beat them up on every which way. Now, the bounce of the ball went the Broncos' way. Okay, the punt. I mean, I'm watching this game 30 years, and I'd never seen anything like what happened on the block punt, and the Cowboys celebrating. And they looked, and then all of a sudden the Broncos had the ball back. But you'd have to say, really impressive performance from Teddy Bridgewater, really impressive performance from a beat-up O-line. And in fairness to the belly, he had a huge role in making those holes for Javonte Williams and for Melvin Gordon. So the key is consistency. And there was there's a lot of talk, obviously, from a lot of Broncos players, a lot of frustration, I think, during the week, a lot of talk about, they wanted to shut people up. The best way to shut people up is to keep this going. There is no point in this team putting in a performance like that, a statement performance, and then going to lose to the Eagles next week. So it's really important for the Broncos that they keep it going. And I think what stood out to me, though, as well, was Trayvon Diggs. The Broncos went at him all day long. Tim Patrick had a field day. Diggs also giving away some penalties against Cortland Sutton. And if he's not getting interceptions and he's giving up plays like that, he's an enormous liability for the Cowboys. So for the Cowboys, you'd have to say, it's a bounce back game. They need that next week. Is this a one-off, or have the Broncos uncovered a way to keep that Cowboys offense quiet?
What you're talking about Trayvon Diggs, I mean, I called it out a couple of weeks ago that he's a boom or bust player. He's great with the interceptions, but what people then fail to reflect on a game is how many yards he gives up to receivers. And it was the same yesterday. But the run game for yesterday for the Broncos, 191 yards combined between Gordon and Williams. Williams' first 100-plus game as a rookie. It was great to see. And the Broncos held on to the ball for 41 minutes of the game, completely outplayed. The Cowboys, McCarthy came back after the game and said, we lacked energy. Well, to me, that sounds like you went into the game complacent and they got burnt. And then you didn't touch on your secondary, because during the offseason we were talking about Fuller coming in from the Bears, which looked like a great pickup. Hasn't really materialized this year. Looked like he was going to be traded last week potentially before the deadline. He had a really effective game yesterday. Surtain was really good. Darby had a good game. And you touched on the pass rush, because everybody felt there wouldn't be with Von Miller gone, but they got to him yesterday on the outside. The Cowboys struggled because the left tackle was ruled out yesterday, and Steele had to play, and he was all at sea. He just couldn't compete with the Broncos front seven going after him. It's a really good win, but I agree with you, Colin. I mean, this is an opportunity. I said it on last Monday's show. 4-4, you're trading away arguably one of your greatest players of all time, and I felt like this division is so competitive. And like now, a week later, you're only one game out of first place. Just goes to show. But ultimately, you got to beat teams like the Eagles. We'll come to them later, but you got to follow up with this game, because the next week's a gimme. It is a gimme as long as you don't look too far ahead. But it's a great win. And for the Cowboys, I mean, Fred was touching on there about how he's been big and rough for the last week. But poor Fred yesterday, I mean, he's blown bubbles at 6 o'clock, with West Ham beating Liverpool. And by 9 o'clock, he was probably blowing a gasket. So I felt for him a little bit yesterday, but his time will come again. And there he is.
Shout out to NI Bronco, who said Dallas arrogance on the early fourth downs played in the Denver Suns. Yeah. Great to see in Jerry World. A couple of friends called, all those boys were over at the game yesterday. They said it was like a home game at one point. And
Yeah, no,
I'm
I mean,
still shocked.
that's not just Broncos fans saying that. That's Cowboys players who came out
Yeah.
to say they were embarrassed by the fact that the Broncos fans took over that stadium. Can't imagine either of the Joneses will be particularly pleased by that.
Shout out as well to Shannon Sharp, who's clearly had a wonderful 24 hours. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long season for Broncos fans. I don't know, boys, what to say. You can't fault the team in that performance. If Teddy Bridgewater plays like that every week, Jesus, the sky's the limit. They're in what, like, I mean, it's a competitive division, but and we'll talk about this in a minute. The Chiefs are nowhere near good enough to win this division, so it's there for the taking. Whoever wants to take it. So you're right, Brian, on what you're saying there. That Eagles game is a gimme to an extent, but I've seen this team too many times to be let down, and I've already got a bad feeling. But maybe I'll be the optimist on Sunday's show.
What we saw from Teddy yesterday was what I think George Payton wanted of him, what expected of him, that he could control that offense. There's players there that can make plays. Don't turn the ball over, and we'll always give ourselves an opportunity because they felt the defense would be so strong. The defense, I would say, this year hasn't played up to the expectations, and ultimately, I think that's what's cost you. I know Teddy's had some iffy games, but if the defense holds them in games like they did last week. Washington game was a poor game, but defense did enough and allowed them to win the game. So the big ones are ahead, but they're well in with an opportunity now. It's in particular wild card as well.
The other thing that really the commitment to the run, which the Broncos have lacked all season long up until yesterday. I mean, they found a way to utilize the two running backs yesterday. We talked about how other teams have been doing that quite well. That made an enormous difference because suddenly the Broncos weren't so one-dimensional, and Teddy wasn't running for his life. Earlier on in the season when the Broncos were even more 3-0, Teddy was running for his life at times. That Giants game in particular, there were times if the Giants had, gotten to it, it could have been very different. It was a much, much better. It was the best performance in the Vic Fangio era. And that's why the consistency aspect is key. You have to build on that now.
Well, I don't know whether the credit, Michael, I don't know whether the credit should go to Schumer or whether it should go to Fangio, but I was banging my head last week after watching that Vikings-Cowboys game because the Vikings just didn't use, it's staring you in the face. Try expose them with their run defense, and they didn't do that last week with Cook. And fairness to the Broncos, they stuck with it. They knew that was an opportunity to go at them. They didn't shy away from it. They kept at it, and they got 191 yards.
Love Javonte Williams, boys. Thoughts out to Graham Glasgow. He's out for the season. Graham was on the show in the off season. Hope you get better soon, Graham. Chargers and Raiders are both 5-3. Chiefs and Broncos are 5-4 in the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes, we'll talk about him in a wee while, boys. Let's look ahead because we have Tommy Rooney coming up in about 25 minutes. Ravens Vikings. For me, game of the day. Enjoyed it immensely. 34-31 Ravens in overtime. What was your thoughts on the game, Colin?
Well, we talked about it on Saturday night. This is a Vikings team who play to the team that they're playing against. It's always close, no matter if they're playing a good team or a bad team, but they happen to be playing a good team in the Ravens. And the Ravens were in need of a bounce-back game after that performance against the Bengals, but they got it. And it's interesting because Lamar Jackson has absolutely turned the narrative on its head. It used to be that if you got a lead on the Ravens, they wouldn't be able to come back because Jackson couldn't play him from behind. Well, now no lead is safe after coming back from 19 points down against the Colts, now 14 points down against the Vikings. And I saw a next gen stat, which was Sunday was the Ravens' fourth win this season when having a win probability of 15% or lower at some point in the second half. Week 2 versus Kansas, week 3 at Detroit, and week 5 at Indianapolis. So they are very good at pulling victories from the mouth of defeat. For the Vikings, it's an infuriating loss in the way they gave it up. And I think especially after Barr came up with that big interception in overtime and they got 1 yard. They 1 yard after that. I mean, you have to wonder where, because they have good players and at times they've been decent on offense and defense, but they find ways to lose, and it's got to be frustrating for that fan base there.
Yeah, it's frustrating in particular because this offense that has the players there, just for me, isn't just performing to the level it should be. We said it last week how they should have had the opportunity to win the game against the Cowboys. Like 31 points yesterday, one touchdown off special teams, and that one massive one to Jefferson early in the game. And then I look at Cousins in total at 187 yards. Thielen, 2 catches for 6 yards. Cook, who's on the perimeter, is a really good catching running back. 3 catches for 12 yards. I mean, they got the opportunity in overtime after the interception from Barr, as you said, and they still couldn't do anything with it. It's just so disappointing. As a Vikings fan, you must be pulling your hair out. They've lost 5 games this season, and within those 5 games, they've lost by 7 points or less. They're in all these games, but yet they just find ways. And for me, it is down to the offense. The offense is sporadic, plays when it wants to, and Gary Kubiak's son took over. You know, Clint Kubiak, he's the offense coordinator, but I'm not sure he's going to be there in the round one because I just don't think he's the answer. He just, like, Martindale blitzed on him yesterday. He's keen to do that. He did it against the Chargers, and he had one-on-one so many times, and yet they still can't get it done. It's just it's beggars belief, and you put up by 14 points in the third quarter and still give the game away. It's a Jekyll and Hyde side. And just sorry, you touched on the Lamar thing. I don't know if you touched on the column. The Chiefs game as well in week 2. They were down by 14, 15 points in that game as well, and they came back. So they've had 3 really strong performances. But what worries me is when it gets to the back end of the season and you put yourself in a hole like that, trying to pull back 14, 15 points, the danger is it's not going to materialize because you're going to be up against better sides who know how to, close out games. So that's a risk. But look, the Ravens are always entertaining, and when you've got a kicker like Tucker, it's pretty much a given. If you get him in overtime and you give him the opportunity, he's going to win the game for you.
Kirk Cousins has thrown for a larger completion percentage than Tom Brady so far this season through 9 weeks, and has less interceptions, albeit Tom Brady has got more touchdowns and more efficient offense. Is it Kirk Cousins or is it what's around him?
Well, you look at the stats. Like I'm looking at it here on that, like 2 players who you would expect to be really dynamic in the game, and Jefferson at the 50-yard, and then he went away after that. He didn't get many looks, and Thielen, who's one of their strongest wide receivers, is only catching two balls for 10 yards something in the game. Like, come on, it just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense, really. And like you look at it, I'm sorry, if someone looked at it and said 34-31, but like there's a special teams touchdown drawn in it. For me, look, we're going back on it again. To have the ball in overtime with an opportunity to win the game, having had the interception. When they took the interception, I think a large majority of people would have felt, right, they're going to do enough to at least give themselves an opportunity. They went conservative. Just doesn't make any sense for me.
One thing I meant to mention about 10, 15 minutes ago, Mark Hogan done a graphic on it the other day as well. Anybody that's appeared on Manningcast has been on to lose their game that Sunday. Josh Allen appeared. It's now you're now 0-6. So I'll find out who's going on the show tonight.
I'll put I said on Saturday, the only way I could see the Jags winning was the Manningcast curse, and I predicted Josh Allen was going to put an end to that. Boy, was I wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what, I couldn't sleep last night because I'm still sick. I watched the majority of this game, and by God, the Tennessee Titans boys, without Derrick Henry, put an absolute beezer down on the Los Angeles Rams to the point where the 28-16 scoreline is flattering, in my opinion. Men against boys, what a win, Colin, for the Titans, who had a horrible week with Henry and have turned it around on primetime in LA. Yeah,
definitely a weekend where if you lost, one of your supposed superstars, you went out and put a kind of a statement performance down. The Titans were definitely assisted by Matthew Stafford having a disastrous game. They got 14 points in 11 seconds off of 2 Stafford mistakes. And you kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of QBs wanting to make plays rather than kind of just throwing the ball away to live another day. But in fairness to the Titans, they took advantage of it. One of the things you'd say in relation to the Titans, they learned from last year, right? I've sometimes heard talk in the NFL that sacks don't matter. Sacks change games Shaq Barrett and last year's Super Bowl, so many other examples. But last year, the Titans had 19 sacks in the entirety of the season, 30th. Only the Jags and the Bengals actually had fewer. This year, they have 23 sacks. They're tied for 5th. That's made an enormous difference. And the other thing that stood out to me, one play, the Texans talked last week that they had a plan for Aaron Donald and how they were going to stop him. Titans found one. Get his own teammate to take him out. Leonard Floyd on Tannehill's walk in for the touchdown. If you have a look, Leonard Floyd absolutely annihilates Aaron Donald. So all you got to do is get one of his own teammates to take him out. That's how you stop Aaron Donald.
I think McVay is really believing his own hype on Matthew Stafford, because they went zero protection on some, like 40. There was 48 pass plays for the Rams yesterday. And of those, they said 50% of them, he had no fullback, he had no running back in there to help with blocking. The offensive line was getting beaten up all night, and he didn't do anything to correct it. And it's strange because and then the secondary, they held Cup. The highest yards Cup got on receptionist was 17 yards. So they knew we need to take him out of the game. He's the most effective player. That defense for the Titans, which struggled last year, as Colin said, and they've rebounded well this year. Jeffrey Sims had three sacks in the game. They were all off on that offensive line all night. They couldn't handle them whatsoever. So it's a huge win. And then discipline as well. They gave 115 yards of 12 penalties, the Rams, throughout the game. So again, that's something that we're not used to seeing from a McVay team. And it goes to the situation of, did they go into that game being complacent as well? Like Adrian Peterson had 11 handoffs for 26 yards. So it wasn't like he came in and held the run game. It was all about that defense last night. I don't think they expected it. And huge win for the Titans, who are 7-2 and rolling nicely. You look at their schedule, they got to play the Texans, they got to play the Dolphins, play the Jags, they play the Texans twice. I mean, they're going to they should get up to 11 wins. So they're going to be in the running for that number 1 seed if teams keep going the way they're going.
Shout out to Trez Wynn saying tighten up. Vrabel studied Bill Belichick. McVay's a one-trick formation. Punny says Patriots feeder. Ian O'Brien, Rams laid an egg last night. Stafford was awful. Ramsey could have been ejected. Shout out to Irish Titans, boys. I was sitting insomniac last night seeing all their tweets. Great night for them. The thing that really impressed me last night was under pressure, Tannehill got the ball off not just to AJ Brown, but also to Julio Jones and Jeff Swaim as well, and Nick Westbrook. They really need to try and improve on the run game now and try and get a more balanced run offense. But they really shut people up last night, boys. My God, they were 21-3 up at halftime, and the Rams were booed off the field at halftime. People turned up to LA last night expecting a walkover win.
Just one final point, something that's floating under the radar. Jim Schwartz, who was previously a defense coordinator with the Eagles, and he was head coach of the Lions, and he always has an aggressive style of coaching, in particular on defense. And he's gone into Tennessee now to kind of play a supporting role for the defensive coordinator. And it's hard not to believe he's having an effect on that defense, because from what we're seeing now as opposed to what we saw last year, it's night and day. And he's well known for being a really effective defensive coordinator. I wonder how much of involvement or how much of the reins Vrabel has handed over to him in terms of supporting the defensive side and the management. Because what we saw last night and what we've seen over the past weeks, I mean, since they lost to the Jets, they've beaten the Chiefs, the Bills, they beat the Rams, and within those games, like, their defense, I know the Chiefs are having their struggles, but they still they held them to 3 points, which is no mean achievement. Like, so big win for them.
And we talked earlier about Justin Simmons and how important he was for the Broncos. Jeffrey Simmons had a game. My goodness, 3 sacks, and just was all over the place. He really having a breakout year, 5.5 sacks on the season, and it's not massively unexpected. They've had a lot of faith in him. He was one of the reasons they were willing to let Jarrell Casey go when they allowed him go to the Broncos. But just to acknowledge the role he's playing, he really had a brilliant night last night.
I really enjoyed the game last night, but it's time to move on, boys. I can't wait for this because I can see the Odell Beckham jersey not in the back at the minute, Brian. Maybe it will be at 10:30 or something if he joins the Giants.
No, we're not in. We're not in. We've already confirmed it.
Well, the Odell Beckham effect was very much in. Well, I don't know if the Von Miller effect's true, Colin, but the Odell Beckham effect, by God, The Browns last night, boys. My God, Joe Burrow last night is one story, but Baker Mayfield played like a man, reinvigorated. Brian, I'll start with you this time. Are you ready to throw it all in?
far ahead, yeah.
And go
I,
for it.
I touched on this game. I had an off-kilter conversation on this game. It was strange in many ways because the Bengals started so well on the opening drive, and they're in the red zone and they give up pick six. It's literally sucked the air out of the stadium, and from there they never really recovered. Burrow never really recovered thereafter. I know they got back level with a Joe Mixon touchdown, but it was the Browns offense that we saw to a large extent when they went into LA a couple of weeks ago. Expansive, explosive, and long balls down the field and players getting open. That's what we saw out of them last year as well. So it's a big win. I mean, the Bengals they haven't fallen off the cliff, but look, that game yesterday was always touch and go. I think nobody ever felt it was going to be a blowout in either way. But for the Browns to win there and put down that marker, yeah, maybe it is the Odell Beckham. Maybe it's kind of the relief that he's gone, but I'm not sure that entirely that's the case because there were so many players last week, some including the Browns players that came out in support of him. So I think there was a bit of a mixed bag there in terms of who wants him there and who didn't. But for Baker Mayfield having been criticised, it was great for him to come out and put in that performance. Very strong. And Chubb. Like when Chubb is on his game, I know we touched on Derrick Henry, but Chubb is up there. He's arguably one of the better running backs in the league. And when you have him rolling, it's a great help because the last few weeks, with the exception of Ernest Johnson in that game, like last week against the Steelers, they had no run game and it completely demoralised them because it was Steelers knew what to do, just play zone and pick up every player. So to get the run game going again, it's a big difference for them.
A column, Nick Chubb, 26 receiving yards, 137 rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns, 9.8 yard average. Did you have a Chubb watching that last night? Because my God, that was unbelievable from the Browns, in my opinion. 41 points up against the Bengals.
Well, I suppose at this point, with Derrick Henry out injured, is it Nick Chubb or Jonathan Taylor who's the best running back in the league? He's incredibly talented, and the thing is that I imagine for the Browns, honestly, the opportunity to just play a game was probably great for all of them because there was just so much drama and so many comments over the week. So to get onto the field was great. And you have to say, Brian mentioned obviously the pick six. Ward per PFF, he allowed one 11-yard completion and a pass rating of 0.0. Burrow came out and talked about, he just had a bad game and he did, and he put his hand up and acknowledged it. Jamar Chase looked shocked. He had an absolutely unbelievable opening 7 weeks. We all know that. But if Mark Hockrell was here, he'd definitely talk about Icarus and flying too close to the sun. Jamar Chase sitting on the sidelines yesterday just looked shell-shocked at times. He really looked like he did think, I have arrived in the NFL, and you have to give kudos to the Browns secondary. Jamar Chase is going to have a very good career, but the Browns secondary yesterday showed up, and they were really, really good. And again, Bo, it's all about consistency. The Browns are back in the mix, and partly that's because of the AFC. I saw a good tweet which said that you could have the AFC, you could have a playoff competition before it takes place, because right now there's so many teams in the mix.
Well, the question is, what happened to the Bengals? That's what's come in there. I think. I think. It sounds a bit silly, but there's teams in the league, and we've seen it here where they win a couple of games and they catch it up, people off surprise, and then all of a sudden people are saying they're going to go to the playoffs. I think it's how you manage to handle the expectations then when you start winning games and people expect you to win. And that game last week, to lose that game in the manner they did against the Jets, haven't had that lead in the fourth quarter. I think that game is still playing on their mind, and they came back against a team that was, I suppose they were pulling as well, having lost to the Steelers last week. So it probably wasn't the ideal game for them to come back on. But we look at the Bills, and we touch on the fact that next week they'll play the Jets, and with all due respect to Jets and their fans, it's probably the ideal game scenario for the Bills to coming off a loss and then playing the Browns, who have had all that controversy with Beckham. Probably wasn't the right matchup for them. But look, the Bengals will continue to do well. I just don't know if they're going to have enough in the end. Like you look at we tweeted out today the standings for the playoffs. I know it's week 9, but you look at the AFC and you look at what's in the, as you say, on the bubble for potentially a wild card. I mean, the Broncos and other teams are there, so it's whether the Bengals will be able to continue at the rate. I'm not sure they will in the long run. I think they'll be happy with what they get out of the season, but I don't think it's going to materialize with a playoff spot.
Time will tell. Time will tell. We got Tommy Rooney coming up in just under 10 minutes to look ahead to the Steelers-Bears game tonight. Thanks to everybody watching so far. Please get your comments in. Use hashtag Irish NFL Show. If you comment on YouTube, we can put it on the screen as well. Technology, boys. Let's look at the Packers against the Chiefs. Aaron Rodgers not playing. Terry Bradshaw had a very, very interesting discussion on Fox Sports before the game. But I'll say this, boys, and I'll leave it at that. Yesterday, Tom Brady was on a bye. I have Brady and Mahomes in my fantasy team. I started Trevor Siemian ahead of Patrick Mahomes yesterday, and he got more points. Colin, this Chiefs team, if they were playing Aaron Rodgers last night, would they have won the game?
No, they wouldn't. But that means that Rodgers cost his team the game.
Absolutely.
And they have to live with that and what that might mean. Russell Wilson will be back. It mightn't mean anything. Maybe they will be the number 1 seeds. But I think it also highlights and I keep banging the drum on this. You've got to start young QBs. It's all very well, Jordan Love and the potential. Jordan Love started last night. Wow, sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, it's done nothing for him. Absolutely nothing, because he looked just like a rookie QB making his first appearance in the league. Jordan Love may go on to be a decent QB, but it doesn't matter how long you sit. You don't magically, through a process of osmosis, take on the starting QB's qualities. If players who have sat and then been successful did so because they were always going to be successful. I think you've got to start it and get it out of the way. The couple of things, the Green Bay special teams, nightmare. I mean, what was Tom McMahon the special teams coordinator for the Packers? Because it looked like it last night. And yeah, Michael, if I and I said this to Brian earlier on today, coming out of that game, even though the Chiefs win, the Packers will feel a lot happier. The Chiefs had 237 yards of total offense on 63 plays, 3.8 yards per play. That is not good, given, they weren't, it's not like Kelsey was out. It's not like Hill was out. It's not like Mahomes was out. Whereas obviously for the Packers, they're going to get Aaron Rodgers back at some point. So, it's a big issue for the Chiefs. And it's an interesting one because the AFC West, 5 wins, everyone has it. But the Chiefs, how often how long can it go on where we'll say the Chiefs are going to figure it out? They haven't yet, but they've got lucky over the past couple of weeks. The Giants will feel they left the game there, and they got to play a Packers team sans Aaron Rodgers.
It's the first time this season they've won back-to-back games. What's striking for me is I saw it on Monday night's game against the Giants and last night. The body language of some of those players. I said it to Colin today. It's very off-putting. There's something wrong there behind the scenes. It'll probably come out in the long run, maybe in the off-season. Mahomes doesn't look happy. Kelsey certainly doesn't look happy. They completely seem to have lost connection with one another. They didn't score in the second half. They only scored 6 points on Monday night in the second half. That offense is far removed from the offense that we're so used to seeing, and we just assume it's a given that they'll get it together. And maybe it is. We touched on recently, they just aren't going to get it together. We said on the show at the weekend, all their games coming up against really strong sides who have winning records. Next Sunday Night Football, they're going into Vegas. I know the Raiders lost yesterday, but for me right now, I can't see how they get to live with that Raiders offense if that's back on song. And then for the Packers, they're going to look at this one as a game, even with the situation with quarterback. Colin is right. I mean, these days, Packers are probably one of the few, and I suppose you could throw the Chiefs in there because they did hold Mahomes for a year. But as you said, everybody knew Mahomes was the talent that he is. Most teams are playing their quarterback within 3 to 4 games, give or take, once they come in as a rookie. The Packers yesterday left that game behind. Missed field goal, blocked field goal, muff punts. I mean, they gave the Chiefs every opportunity to win the game. That game was there for them yesterday. It's a killer because we said it now. They're out of 4th seed. We didn't probably expect the Cardinals to win as handsomely as they did, but they're out of number 1 seed. They've got the Seahawks coming up and they've got some other big games, further down the line, they might, live to rue that opportunity to have the games in Lambeau come the playoffs.
I don't know what was up Troy Aikman's back yesterday with Jordan Love. I'm not sure if something happened pre-game, but I think some of his comments were just unacceptable. The reality is, if Jordan Love had another 5 or 10 minutes in this game, they would have won the game. I have no doubt whatsoever. He was getting comfortable towards the end. We can talk about the Packers having issues first, second, third quarter. Mid-fourth quarter, when the Packers finally got it together with Jordan Love, albeit it was 1 touchdown, you're thinking, they get the ball back here, they have a chance. Another 4 or 5 minutes, they would have scored again and won the game. Have we any quick points there before we get Mr. Rooney on?
I agree with you on Troy Aikman. From the start of the game, he was so negative about the Packers. Look, he obviously has some issues around the Rodgers situation. A lot of people do. Everybody does. But I felt his commentary yesterday was very off-putting. And it's gas him being critical of a rookie quarterback. His first year, he was 1-15 as a Cowboys quarterback. Maybe he should take time to reflect on his own career. I know he's gone on to win Super Bowls, but I mean, give the kid a break. The kid was put in a situation yesterday which was difficult for him going into Arrowhead. Maybe better days are ahead for him, but I'm not sure in the long run.
Yeah, look, I mean, I wouldn't be too off put with his performance yesterday as a Packers fan. Like, the first game, not an easy game to go to, especially when you got one of the greatest teams of all time in Kansas City and a $500 million man at quarterback. So they done very well looking at the scoreline. Let's move on very quickly to try and get over a couple of games here. We'll have a quick look here at the Patriots, boys. Colin Patriots getting the win. Mac Jones, I have a good stat here, which I saved for tonight. Mac Jones joins Andrew Luck in 2012 and Prescott in 2016. Is the only rookie since the merger to have 5+ wins, 10+ pass touchdowns, and 2,000+ pass yards in their first 9 career games. The thing that impressed me more was the defense, and also Sam Darnold's a serious issue there, Colin.
Well, look, I'm not surprised Mac Jones is the perfect fit for that system. But Mac Jones, he truly became a Patriot last night. Because have we all seen the ankle grab? Truly, he's been brought to the dark side. Bill Belichick put up the hood and he said, "Welcome to the dark side." The twist. Brian Burns is now out with an ankle injury, so Mac Jones is truly a Patriot. The other thing that stands out, Christian Barrymore, who's been outstanding for them at defensive tackle. They took a chance on him, but unlike the Raiders, with some of their draft picks in terms of character, they have developed him. And Sam Darnold could very well lose that starting job. Just an absolute nightmare. So much for Adam Gase being the issue.
I'm not sure whether it was because McCaffrey was coming back off the injury too soon or whether it was just great scheming by Belichick and his defense, but they didn't allow McCaffrey to get outside on the perimeter all night long. He finished the game at 106 yards, but they were allowing him to run up the middle. It was a great defensive performance. I mean, the pick 6 as well, but Darnold threw 3 interceptions in the game and critical ones, 2 in the red zone, 1 in the end zone. Obviously, that was then brought back for a touchback, and then obviously the pick 6, which puts the game away. And Mac Jones didn't have the best of games yesterday, I'd say, and he had some really kind of dubious throws. But the one that I felt was really good was the fact that when he struggled on one particular drive, the next drive he drives him down, and Hunter Henry gets the touchdown. Shows the player. And the Patriots, they're ticking along nicely. 5-4. I know for a team that we all felt was done and dusted very early in the season, they're going in the right direction.
Shout out to Irish Panthers watching the show tonight. Thank you for your comments, man. Hopefully you get a win next week. Chargers, Eagles. Chargers get the win. Giants get the win against the Raiders. Both those games, Colin, anything stand out? Both those games for me, it was how poor the Raiders were in New York.
To me, I suppose the standout from those two was Herbert, who had a little bit of a blip, obviously, in the last 2 games, but he was outstanding against the Eagles. He was really, really good. 32 of 38, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, two of those passing, 1 running in. I thought, he was really, really good. The Eagles put it up to him, but no, Herbert was the difference in that game.
The Eagles defense gave up 80% completion rate to Herbert yesterday. 5 quarterbacks this season have done that. They don't seem to change the scheme. No matter what's been put on them, they just won't amend in game, which is shocking. And Hurts only threw for 17. He only had 17 throws yesterday. So again, and the completion rate wasn't very good. So again, I'm not sold on him. For the Giants game, I've been banging the drum for the last few weeks about how well the Giants defense has been playing. Unfortunately, we didn't get what we deserved last Monday night in Kansas City. The week before that, it's only the Panthers. Last week, it was whether the Chiefs aren't playing well offensively. And this week, well, we're playing against one of the best offenses in the league this year. And people will probably put it down to the fact that they've had their own issues this week with the Rogue situation. But Giants defense played really well yesterday. The Raiders were 1-6 in the red zone, including the missed field goal, which was a gimme that man Carlson swung left. So it's a big win. Giants are going on a bye now. And I'm looking at the schedule. There's winnable games for the Giants, coming down the line. Season is
I put a comment, Brian, in the private chat there saying Freeman had a good game. Devontae Booker had a good game. Really, really good game. He's doing really well in New York, and fair play, because difficult situation there with Saquon Barkley, and they
over 100 yards rushing yesterday for Booker. Booker's been a really good player this year. In fairness to Gettleman, like, people give him another stick, and I know people questioned Gallman leaving and Booker coming in. Booker's been a really consistent running back.
Good to see him being given a chance at a franchise. Let's very quickly, before we bring Mr. Rooney on, look at the 49ers Cardinals game. I don't know why the hell I picked the 49ers in this game. I actually sat here and said Jimmy G was going to play good. Jimmy G had like 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Jimmy G wasn't the problem yesterday. Jimmy G made some really good throws, and
no protection
for him. Well, Kittle fumbles on the opening drive. Then they get into the red zone, and Deebo Samuel fumbles. And they're down 14-0. Shanahan then quickly goes away from the run game, because obviously he's trying to play catch up and leaves them struggling with an offensive line that went down with a lot of injuries yesterday. And they're going up against Colt McCoy, with all due respect. Hopkins is out, and AJ Green is out. And they're playing at home. They've only won. I don't think they've won a home game this season. They're 1-5 in the last 6 games. Like, it's just gone horribly wrong for them. Kyle Shannon looks a very frustrated soul on the sideline. But I think that's their opportunity lost, because we touched on it at the weekend show, for them to get themselves back in with an opportunity. And for the only thing I was saying on the cards, James Conner last year with the Steelers looked like he was banged up. He looked like he wasn't old, but he looked old. 171 yards rushing yesterday, 3 touchdowns. He's completely re-energized since he's gone over there. And it's been a while since the Cards have had a really strong running back. I know they have very much a running back by committee the last couple of years, but he's having a great season there.
You have to say 49ers fans beginning to turn, beginning to get very annoyed. And Michael Silver, who's joined us on the show previously, had a really good piece kind of analyzing it. And he had a quote from a veteran player who he said, "Good teams have an identity. Ours, what is it?" And that's a huge issue. What is the 49ers identity? Are they a rushing offense? Are they a passing offense? Why did they draft Lance if they're not going to play him? What was the point in giving up the farm for him? It's a big mess right now in San Francisco, and it will be very interesting to see the second half of the season, and can Kyle Shanahan get it figured out? Given the contract he's on, I don't know how warm that seat is. He might get another year to sort it, but it has been definitely a season of frustration in San Francisco.
Article during the week that it's suggesting that there was trouble behind the scenes in the management team, because Shanahan was all in on Mac Jones, and the decision was taken out of his hands towards the draft. He went to a Trey Lance, and he wasn't happy with what was done. And there's a mismatch now in terms of what he feels and what Lynch thinks. So interesting to see how it plays out.
Interesting how it plays out. Also interesting to see how tonight's game plays out. You got the Bears going up against the Steelers at Heinz Field. Delighted to be joined by Tommy Rooney. Tommy, now we had you in Dublin in August, man. Welcome back in. I know we're not in Ireland anymore, but a pleasure to have you on, man.
Tommy's on mute.
Are you on mute, Tommy? This is always going to happen. Oh. It might be, and you know what it might be, man, seriously, and this happens a lot, don't worry. You might have to refresh your browser or something, or your microphone. It's all good. These things happen. It's gone. Let's see if it works. No, it's not working. I tell you what, I'm going to, he's coming back. I don't know. Go for it, Bram, while you're written.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we haven't touched on the fact that the Falcons went in and beat the Saints yesterday. You know, they only gave up, the Saints only gave up 36 yards rushing.
Trevor Siemian, MVP.
And they found a way, and like, we're starting to see a different Falcons, because we've seen in the past where they're losing these nail biters, but they found a way to go down and win the game at the end. Cordell Patterson this season. What a player.
Absolutely. Tommy, can you communicate, or it might be your phone, or let's see. Yeah, it's tell you what, man. Seriously, this will work. Come on your cell phone, okay? It'll work on your cell phone. It should work, okay? See you in a second. Sorry, Tommy, I feel awful because it's live.
The other thing around the Falcons is how well Matty Ice is playing. Yeah. He wanted that so badly yesterday, and was pleased for him and for Arthur Smith to get that. They've lost some really heartbreaking games this year, so to see them get that one when it really mattered was a nice kind of bounce of the ball for them.
Yeah, for the Saints, it's a bit of having beaten the Bucs last week within the division, to lose that game, and it's those games that's the problem with the division. They're so up and down. We've seen in the past teams going in and winning. Here we are now. We'll move away from that game and we'll talk about tonight's game.
Tommy, please tell me, yeah, it's working. I can hear you. How's it going, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I apologize for that.
It's all here. It's fine. It happens like at least one guest every week or every 2 weeks, and it's fine. Don't worry. First off, Tommy, welcome in, man. Look, we can talk about your time in Ireland and stuff, but it's hard to believe we went from being in Dublin in August, having a couple of pints, having some crack, and now we're sitting week 9 of the NFL season. How have you found the Steelers so far?
It was a rough start, and I will say that I was at the Green Bay game, and after that game, it seemed like all hope may have been lost at that point. The offense was really struggling, and Big Ben looked like how everyone was saying he was going to look eventually, and I was a little worried at that point. But I will say that recently we have kind of gotten away from that. The offensive line has been steadily progressing, and Najee's having a little bit more room to run, which has helped. And the Bears defense is 24th against the run. So hopefully that is the formula for tonight, but we'll see.
Tommy, before we go to tonight's game, just to get your thoughts as a Steelers fan, but that question at the press conference, yeah. As a non-Steelers fan, but just as an NFL fan, I was livid that somebody would put that out there. What was your thoughts as a Steelers fan?
I mean, as a fan of the NFL in general, you look at the 3 guys who have been doing it for the longest and who have been at the top: Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, and Mike Tomlin as well. And as Mike Tomlin said, those guys aren't getting questions like that. It is completely disrespectful for someone who has been as successful as he has, never had a losing season. Everybody knows how good of a coach he is. And I feel like that it was probably just trying to get a little bit of publicity up for the job, which is part of the game. But as Coach Tomlin said, there aren't a lot of jobs that are better than being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I thought that question was a little ridiculous.
Tommy, you touched on the game in Lambeau in Green Bay. In fairness, the game was never in doubt. The defense played reasonably well that night. The defense played really well in Buffalo on the opening weekend of the season, and again last week in Cleveland. I mean, if Big Ben can just not throw interceptions and just manage the offense, it's a defense that's going to win games.
Yeah, and the thing about the Buffalo game is that we weren't blitzing a lot in that game, and I think that might be something that we get back to tonight against Justin Fields, who's a running quarterback, playing a lot of zone and not having a lot of open rushing lanes for him to scramble and get out. I think that is probably something that we're going to try to do tonight, hopefully. And he had 100 yards rushing last week, so he's definitely a legitimate threat in the rushing game. And I think that the way to slow that down is to play a lot of zone. So we'll see.
Tommy, outside of the Steelers, I know I'm going away from the Steelers, but who has impressed you that you maybe thought wouldn't happen? And we were very down on the Chiefs before you came on. Who has shocked you 9 weeks in?
Well, it might be recency bias, but I mean, the Tennessee Titans are looking like they might be one of the best, if not the best team in the league right now. I mean, Derrick Henry going down was obviously huge, and the Rams were favored very heavily last night, and the Titans never looked back once they took the lead. And it is a little bit scary that they can be that good without Derrick Henry. And so I would say the Titans are the most surprising team right now.
Tommy, just before the season kicked off, TJ got the deal done, and we heard that he Didn't listen to his agent. He walked into the office. He said, I want to be a Steeler. I want to get this done. So let's get it over the line. What was that? What did that mean to Steelers Nation?
I mean, TJ is one of, if not the favorite guy, I would say, for most Steeler fans right now. He just embodies what a Steeler is on and off the field. And I think that everybody kind of knew that the deal was going to get done at some point. And it is very cool to see that TJ is the one that ended up just being like, let's get this done. Let's play football. And I think that everybody was really pumped about that. And I mean, in my opinion, he's the defensive player of the year thus far. I think he's earned every penny that he got in that contract. And I think that he's best player on defense in the NFL this year. So,
Tommy, you'd say the Steelers are quietly going about their business. I mean, everybody was talking about the Bengals having, I suppose, a great start to the season. We've had the Browns and the Beckham situation last week. And then, look, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. And the Steelers, are second in division. The Bears tonight, Lions are home next week before going to the Chargers, but that's for another day. I mean, these are two crucial games, and they're well within an opportunity of the playoffs, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. It was like how we were talking when I was in Dublin with you guys. I think it's good that we are kind of being under the radar and that the Browns can be in the news every day with the Odell situation. And credit to the Bengals, they have been playing a lot better than I thought they were going to, so they deserve to be talked about. But I think that we are in a really good spot right here and that we could very, very quietly put ourselves in good position. And I will just say that the Steelers are 19-0 on Monday Night Football since 1991. So that's a little cheeky stat there for you, but something to look for. I mean, hopefully we don't lose to the Lions. I mean, that would be heartbreaking, but.
Well, as a Broncos fan, I think we actually broke our 23-year record or something being on Monday Night Football this year. That's how bad it is for us. Actually, I was going to ask you about your show, but very quickly got a little bit of breaking news, boys. A little bit of breaking news. It's a comment from Sam McCora here saying, guess who just opened a roster spot? Mike Rice is reporting the Patriots have waived center James Ferentz, opening a spot on their 53-man roster. Twitter is going mad. Tommy, what do you think? OBJ to New England?
I mean, that's a typical Patriots move right there, but I'm sure that he'll be great for them and they'll win the Super Bowl. So good for them.
Mark isn't here tonight, who you would have met in the woodshed. Mark must be out there, has it with his legal cap on, helping orchestrate that move, yeah?
Getting the salary cap then. Trying to get.
Tommy, when you joined us over the summer, you were telling us a little bit about the Boys Upstairs show. How's that been going?
It's been going really well. It's something that me and my friends and my brothers has started, and we actually last week had Marcus Grant of NFL Network come on and interview him, which was a really cool opportunity. He was a great guy, and so we hope to just continue to be able to have cool things like that and try to get conversations out of people from our perspective, which is like college kids that you might not get from a typical interview. So I think that that's kind of the draw, and it's a relaxed sports show that I think is kind of like a satirical way of looking at a lot of like the popular sports shows from a college kid's perspective. But thank you for bringing it up.
Tommy, we ask all our guests about their Irish heritage, so we don't have to do that because we've had you on before, thankfully. And we asked all our guests for a pick for each game, and tonight is no different. And bearing in mind, you've just said that you're 19-0 on Monday Night Football. I think we know where we're going with this one, but fire ahead. Why are the Steelers going to win tonight?
Well, I have to preface it by saying that just because I don't want to jinx it, I've never bet on a Steelers game, never, just be out of respect for the fact that I don't want to feel like I'm the reason we lost. However, Big Ben is also undefeated while wearing the Color Rush jerseys, which we're wearing tonight. So something to keep in mind there as well. I definitely think that 7.5 is, or 7, I think is the line now. I think that we can probably cover that. So I like our chances tonight, but again, I don't want to jinx it. So.
Well, Tommy, you're a gentleman. Thank you so much for coming on. I encourage everyone to check out your show. I'll tag it on Twitter. And on the day that the US opened its borders to everybody in Europe, we hope to get over soon. And all the best to you and your family, man. And enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Have a good one. Enjoy the game as well.
Thanks, Tommy.
Cheers, Tommy. Thank you, man. Thank you. That is Tommy Rooney from the Boys Upstairs show. Obviously, we had Tommy and his father on. Rooney family in August in Dublin. Pleasure to have them on. I put a tweet out earlier on guessing the games for international next year. Could the Steelers play the Patriots in Dublin? Sweet Jesus and Nazareth, what happens? But boys, before we get the game picks very quickly, that could be huge news. It looks like that could be Odell going to.
Do we have the waiver wire? Because I'm reading one here that's saying if he's no, they're not saying he's not going to New England. They're saying the Seattle Seahawks are 100% going to take him if they can. But if the Patriots are ahead of them on the waiver wire,
I'm not sure the waiver wire. Now I can check that because I'm actually doing something else at the minute because I'm obviously a whiz kid on the computer. I will find that out. To be honest with you, this could be a situation a bit like, like the quarterback that flew the toys out of the pram, Eli Manning, back in the day. Odell might ring up the phone and go, "I'm not going to you, so don't even think of taking."
Yeah, you're right. Actually, in fairness, they've been speculating that all day. There's a number of reports out today saying if he gets picked up by a team in the top 10 in the waiver wire, they're having an unsuccessful season, he's not going to play for them. Please look at you. You're quick to the old.
I know. What do you think, Colin? Odell in New England? Can my life get any worse?
Well, we just talked earlier how they had taken the chance on Christian Barrymore, who there were character concerns about, and they have turned him into a very, very good player. But do they have the cap space? My understanding was that they had about $4 million in cap space. So I don't know, maybe that center move is enough, but that is the other consideration is the team. Not only does Odell have to want to join, but the team has to have the cap space in order to make it happen.
This is Robert Kraft. Come on, like.
Crafty. I think they'll find a way of adjusting their cap to get him in. One interesting note on this: if they do pick him up, do you know who the Patriots play this weekend?
Not the Giants.
No, the Browns.
Oh,
there you go.
God.
See, that's on Sky, yeah.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow night. But this league just keeps on giving. You're talking with Sky there. Would feel amiss to say this, boys. Really enjoyed watching Jason Bell and Sky last night. I don't know if you've seen it, not Colin, but Brian, I think you've got Sky. Really enjoyed it. Jason, obviously a good friend of the show. It was good crack.
Yeah, it was great, and his knowledge of the game is second to none. So he really fit in very well on the show. It was seamless in terms of how quickly he was able to get on with it. When you know what you're talking about, he was really good, excellent. And I think he's back next week as well. I think he touched on social today that he'll be there next week again.
I would speculate he'll be on for a few more weeks yet, maybe until Jeffrey wins the Grey Cup. Hi, Jeffrey. Okay, very quickly, because I tweeted out saying about Odell Beckham potentially going to New England, and it's blowing up on social. So just to put it on here to keep people going, that is huge news. I don't think they would waive him unless something was going on, boys. And this is the guy in the know. Like, look at the way he's even wording the tweet. For me, this is typical. If he goes to New England, it's almost as if God is punishing me, Colin, and I just... I don't know if I can take it.
Let's see what happens. I mentioned earlier in relation to Mac Jones about grabbing the ankle. He's learned the Patriot way perfectly. He didn't know what was going on. He thought that Brian Burns had the ball. Apparently, what a magnificent student of Bill Belichick Mac Jones is proving to be. And will he have a shiny new weapon to throw to?
Sorry, Michael. Look, Belichick was very cute in his press conference today. He said he's a fantastic player. He said all the things that we're used to hearing from Belichick, wasn't giving anything away, good or bad, whether he was interested. But he is the kind of player that will put them over the top. In terms of, again, it depends what Odell Beckham you're getting. Be interesting. If anybody can manage him, I think Bill will be able to manage him.
Big Bill. He managed Antonio Brown well, so we'll see.
Or he'd end up with Pete Carroll, and it'd be an absolute...
I was, and I know we're going to get to our game picks in a second presented by Matchbook, but I was shocked when I seen the talk around Seattle, especially the 49ers. Is he trying to go to storied franchises or something? What is the what's the feeling there? Because especially after last night, the 49ers aren't really, in it to win it this year.
Sorry, Colin, if you don't mind. I don't get the Seattle one because they've got Metcalf. They've got Lockett. He's not so much as a slot receiver. So where does he fit? And he's going to be the third receiver, and third receivers get a small percentage of the ball. Odell Beckham's the kind of player wherever he goes, he'll be expecting to be, the forefront of many an offense. And he wouldn't. I don't think he would have seen that in Seattle.
Right, we're going to get our game picks going in a second. Thanks to Tommy for coming on. Thanks to everyone who's watched so far tonight. Thanks to Mark for getting this game pick in a second. Thanks to Matchbook. Enter the bonus code Irish NFL Show at Matchbook Betting Exchange. £15, €15. Welcome offer, money back as cash if your first bet loses. Did our bet win last night, Brian?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
I can't recall who let us down. The Rams let us down. And you were concerned with that. And you picked the Titans, so maybe I should have listened, but you were overruled. Anyway.
Okay. Well, it could have been worse. You could have been waiting on Derrick Henry to score a touchdown last week for €1,400. I mean, that could be worse, but big props to our friends at Matchbook.
I met one guy this morning who had a 10-team accumulator, all with handicaps, not just wins. He had 9 up, and the last team which let him down was the Raiders.
Comment here, OBJ wants to be the big dog in the team. He won't go somewhere. He won't be WR1. That week, Brian, where I got every game right bar Monday Night Football, it was one of them. If I had put everything on the 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock games, I probably would have been able to buy a house in Southside Dublin. So
you would have been looked after, yeah.
Yeah, looked after. What's your thoughts tonight with Matchbook? The over-under's 40. 40.
39.5. He dropped down to now. Would you believe? I think he'll go over. I think it's probably down to the fact that the Steelers' offense has struggled this season, but you're looking at a 23-20 type of game and the over. I think it'll go over. Whilst I'm talking, are we going into picture?
Yeah, we're going 2 seconds. Column Steelers -7. So Bears big outsiders. I guess we should go into picks. Let's get the screens ready. Let's hit it. Colin, start us off. Who have you got?
I think for me, the only way I can see the Bears winning this is if it is a low-scoring game. It's unfortunate they're missing their star pass rusher because, if you can get to Big Ben and put some pressure on, that's the way to get at them, but they don't have that. And I do think that the Steelers have the front to cause Justin Fields all sorts of problems. David Montgomery coming back is important for the Bears. He was playing unbelievably well just before he went out injured, but can he slot straight back in? I think the Steelers are going to have too much for this Bears team. I think Fields will continue to improve as it goes on. But I just think that you saw this Steelers team lean on all their knowledge to beat the Browns. And I know that the rivalry that exists there, but I think that they are going to have too much for the Bears team. It's the Steelers winning it. It's not going to be explosive, but I think Najee Harris, who's been involved in the run game, the pass game, has been so important. He will be an important factor for the Steelers tonight. They go to 5-3.
If Montgomery comes back at 100%, he's a huge boost. And in fairness, he's been out with Herbert, the second running back who's come in, he was kind of under the radar, obviously, going into the season. He's been really effective. So now they've got like a combined running back there, which should help Justin Fields. But for me, that Bears offensive line is a struggle. We saw it when they went down to Tampa. When we'd argue that the Bucs are the best team in the league, but I'm not sure whether they're the best defense in the league, and they gave him a terrible time. Really struggled, and he threw 3 or 4 interceptions in the first half. So it's a bit of a boom or bust scenario. Are we going to see Justin Fields starting to progress as we saw last week, or are we going to go back to the traits of 2 weeks ago where he's throwing interceptions? I think defensively, Steelers will be too strong. I think Najee Harris, I think Claypool might have a game. I don't think it'll be high scoring either. I think, to be honest, I think the Bears might cover that spread, which is 7 points. I think the Steelers will win, close game, maybe by a field goal, just enough to keep them in the running ahead of that game with Detroit next week.
Brian's taking the Steelers. Column's taking the Steelers. Marcus Mariota, Mark Cockrell is taking the Steelers as well. I think the game tonight will be the under. I think it'll be under 40 points scored. I think both quarterbacks will struggle. I think Big Ben will struggle. I think Justin Fields is going to struggle big time on a primetime game tonight. I might as well just be honest and say that now. I don't think he'll get the receptions he needs to get anywhere near where he has to go tonight. And I think Big Ben will hand it off to Najee Harris and get one pass and touchdown as well and win the game. But it will be the under. These teams have got the under so many times this season. And the Steelers, I'm picking the Steelers. What? Steelers to go 5-3. A lot of good teams in the AFC around 5-3, 5-4. Yeah, taking the Steelers. Taking the Steelers. Everyone happy enough with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, lots of teams in and around the 5-win mark, but it helps. It helps to have a coach like Mike Tomlin when you are looking to make a playoff push.
Indeedy.
Yeah, full house. To be honest, doesn't come as a surprise that we're all picking the Steelers. I just feel that their experience will be enough to get them through this game. They said, don't think it's going to be one of the better games of the season, but they'll do enough.
It'll be grand. Thanks to everybody for watching the show tonight. Thanks for all the picks. I think we got through every game. Did we miss anything? I don't think we missed anything, did we?
I think we got through all the games, yeah, give or take.
Well,
no, we didn't. Oh, no, we didn't. The most intriguing game of the weekend. We never touched on that one. The Dolphins beat the Texans.
No, come on.
Do you not want to wrap it up with the best game of the weekend?
Not really. Oh, right enough, because Colin picked the Texans.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I went with the Texans, even though I said that they should knock it all down and start over. But the Dolphins, I don't know if anyone saw the photo from John McLean and why the Dolphins might be looking for a new QB. Like the amount of empty seats was
it was mad, wasn't it? That's why I'm convinced. I am convinced, and I'm sorry, I know, Brian, you're going to make a point. I'm convinced the Dolphins will play in London the next 2 or 3 years as a home game. I think the owners don't care anymore. I think, yeah, go to London. We'll take the money for it. We'll split the gate. But that's why I've put it in that guesswork tonight. I think the Dolphins will play in Tottenham again next year, 100%.
Do you know the funny sketch which we've all seen, and anybody who watched the show should know at this stage, which was Colin when he was on his, I wouldn't call it a rant, but he was making his point around the fact that the Texans will be poor this year. And if the follow-up onto that is Mark Hockel saying, Tyrod Taylor won't turn the ball over. Well, I don't know what Tyrod Taylor was doing yesterday towards the end of the first half, because that play, for anybody who watches Red Zone yesterday, where he was trying, it completely just, he was seeing ghosts because he couldn't see a Dolphins player standing literally a yard on the field. You know, to take the interception, he tried to throw the ball away. Throw it away. Don't just flimsy it off with 20 seconds to go in the half. It's horrendous. It's a horrendous game. 70-9. But as a man who, as I said on Friday night show or the weekend show, who backed the Dolphins Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just as well I did, because everything else didn't come in this weekend.
Yeah, like I can't even sit here and gloat that I picked the Jags and the Titans, because some of my other picks were woeful. But look, if your team won this weekend, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you enjoy Monday Night Football. So I'm tempted to watch it tonight. Let's see what happens. But I guess for now, boys, that is it. We're back on Thursday immediately after the Ireland-Portugal game. I think it's going to go at 9:45. Stay with us. A couple of cool guests coming on to watch this space. Thursday night football, which is, don't tell me, I'm going to guess, the Ravens against the Miami Dolphins. Big game for both teams. Big game for the Ravens. Have to win that game. Looking forward to it, boys.
Yeah. The Ravens are an intriguing team to watch, and I think anytime you get to see Lamar Jackson, who is Lamar now the front runner for MVP after Stafford's performance last night?
I would certainly think so, and I certainly don't think you're putting Josh Allen in there just after his performance yesterday. You know, MVPs don't win. Players don't win MVPs when they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, and for the Ravens, Thursday night, it's a must-win game, because a lot of people are going to look at the schedule now for the remainder of the season, the teams that are challenging for the playoffs, and say, have we got the Dolphins on our schedule? Oh, we do. Well, that's a win. So everybody will be expecting the Ravens to win comfortably on Thursday. But we've seen during the season on Thursday night football, there's been some strange games and strange results, so who knows?
9:45 on Thursday. We'll be on for at least an hour. Please join us. I'll say this now because, again, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. If you are watching this and you comment on YouTube a lot, it's probably going to be pre-recorded, because I'm going to the Aviva. So don't be hating this if we don't put your comments out. Please watch it regardless. Appreciate it, lads. See you on Thursday.
For an hour and 15, just to say, my favorite tweet of the weekend was Mina Kimes, who said that apparently being the MVP favorite is like that movie where if you have sex, you're the next one to die. She was talking about It Follows, which is on Netflix, but somebody responded with a picture of Tim Tebow. Which was
oh God! Wow, that is woeful. That is woeful. That's us.
Yep.
That's us. Okay, folks. Enjoy the game tonight. See you on Thursday night at 9:45.